Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our TEPSA Presents Member Spotlight series. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. I am thrilled this week to introduce to you Maxine Gonzales on with us today. Maxine, welcome. Kind of tell everybody just a little bit about who you are before we get started.
Hi, thanks so much, Todd, for having me on. Like you said, my name is Maxine Gonzales. I'm currently the principal at Henderson Elementary with Midland Independent School District. I started my career in education in 2004. Fast forward to 2023, and I have primarily worked at Title I schools, and I'm very excited to currently be serving as the principal at a Title I campus. I primarily taught fifth grade when I was a classroom teacher. Half my career I spent it teaching reading and the other half teaching math. And the final year in education, I thought it would be great fun to mix it up and teach reading and math in 75-minute blocks. You know, at the end of the day, you do what you have to do for kids. And as an instructional coach, I knew I was needed in the classroom. So I put myself back in and said, put me in, coach. I'll do what I need to, and we'll finish out the year. And I was the assistant principal for 3 years total. And this year I am now the principal at my own school. And that has been quite a change, but welcome, a very welcome change.
I love it. Well, Maxine, as we do these Member Spotlight series interviews, the one question I love to start with as we get these conversations going is, at some point in your career, you realized you might be interested in stepping outside the classroom and trying a leadership role outside the classroom. So how did that process begin for you? Was it a natural draw for you? Was there somebody who encouraged you to do that? How did that happen for you?
So it's a funny story. Our current AP, TEPSA AP of the year, Josie Mata, she actually said to me one day, I think you should look into being an assistant principal. And I said, okay. I was flattered, very strong assistant principal. So I went home and I looked into it and thought, that's a lot of work. I'm not going to do that. And so I just, didn't think again about it until about a month later. She said, I'd looked into it, so I knew when classes started. And she said, so when do you start classes for leadership? And I lied. I said, at the end of the month. And I went home and I made that a truth. I signed up for classes and I started Memorial Day weekend. And 18 months later, I was certified and starting my first assistant principal job.
Oh, that is a story I have not heard before. I love that, Maxine. I love that you lied about it and then had to make it true because you realized, oh my gosh, I love that so much. Well, Maxine, as we think about this leadership position, there's a lot of different things that it entails. And no matter what you feel about technology, it is a part of our lives and our personal and our professional lives. And so if there is a tech tool that you'd share with people, whether it's personal or professional, what's a tech tool that you'd love to share today?
So there's a calendar app, and I know I'm butchering the name, but it's spelled like Calendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I add it to my Gmail, and people can sign up for times to meet with me and they can check my availability. And that has been, my HR person used it and I loved it. And so what I love about it was that I'm able to share it with my teachers, and there's not the back and forth waiting game of, well, when are you available? When's a good time for you? They can see when I'm available. And that also makes me intentionally block off times to be in classrooms, block off times for observation feedback. And so that has been a tool that has saved me this year because I've been able to have people schedule time to meet with me and not have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out when is convenient to do that.
There's two things there that I will say about that app because I have used it as well. There is nothing more annoying than going back and forth with emails going, does this time work? Oh, what about this one? Okay, no, that one doesn't. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're just trying to choose the time. So that's what I love too, is that there's a link you can send out and say, like, here's all my availability. Pick the one that works for you. And as soon as they do, it marks it off on your calendar. But the other thing that you just said that I really love too is that it makes you be intentional about putting everything on your calendar. So it makes you be intentional to go, okay, I don't want them to take this hour block. So I'm going to put on my calendar that I'm going to be in classrooms. And then that will also remind me to get my behind into classrooms because I blocked it out on there. So I love that you shared that, Maxine. Thank you for that. And so, as part of these conversations too, I love to kind of know how you work on building up the culture of your school. And is there something that you do either that you've had done before when you were a teacher or that you're going to do or you've done before yourself, just to kind of grow the culture on your campus? Because as you and I both know, it's a never ending job to do that.
So I think it's a little bit multifaceted in the approach there. So one of the things begins with the transparency with my availability. My weekly newsletter also shows a snapshot of where I'm at every day when I'm tied up, so that teachers know where I'm at and if I'm not responding, why that is. So the transparency has been very helpful being new to this campus. I think also it has helped that I have been very intentional with being present, being very visible, and finding times to connect with teachers, not just, hey, what's going on in your classroom, but getting to know them as a person, what's going on in their personal life, without being invasive. Checking on them, oh, your daughter was having a baby. How's your daughter doing? Were the pictures of the new grandbaby? I can't wait to see them. And so really just ensuring that they know that I remember details about their personal life that they have shared with me, offering to be there with them, to be a partner with them in thought. So that's been very helpful. And then scheduling little things that are like this week, we're doing an egg hunt, but it's they have to find eggs around the building and turn them in for a prize. And
I
I
love it.
include candy, of course, but jeans passes and leave early passes because those are the true golden eggs.
Right. Well, I think you had so many good things in there that I hope people heard. But one of the ones that you said that really resonated with me was that intentionality, that really getting to know people on a personal level. And I think there's a difference between being the administrator who stops by their room and just checks in and is like, hey, how are things going? You need anything? And being that kind of visible. And there's a difference between that kind and then the kind that you talked about, where you can say things like, hey, is the grandbaby here? Do you have any pictures? Because right away, that sends a different message. That sends a message that you're not just stopping by. You actually remembered something that I told you, or you're interested in something that I mentioned on one time. And so I think that is a true determinant in a good leader and a great leader is one that can do that. So I love that you shared that because that does take effort on the leader's behalf. And it's sometimes, if you're like me, you got to make notes to remember all the little things. So I love that you shared that. Well, Maxine, as we close out this conversation, one of the things that I love to have our guests leave is a piece of advice or some words of wisdom for those who may be in their first year, even though every year is like our first year, and you are in your first year. So what advice would you leave?
Absolutely being intentional with scheduling some time to pretend that you don't work where you work. You have to have a weekend once in a while or say, I'll work on Saturday morning for a few hours, but Saturday noon until Sunday evening, I'm going to pretend I don't have a job, and really disconnecting and taking care of yourself. That's been a struggle for me.
Mhm.
But when I've noticed myself feeling a little empty, I can't fill other people's cup. from an empty cup. And so, really taking the time to figure out what in this time in my life fills my cup, and doing those things that really refuel me as a leader are what's helping me be able to better take care of my staff.
I love that. And that is definitely advice, no matter what your role is in education, is to have time where you don't even think that you have a job and spend some time on you. So that is a wonderful way to end this conversation, Maxine. Well, I have so enjoyed all the little tidbits of wisdom today, Maxine. So thank you for sharing some of your brilliance with fellow TEPSA members. We're thankful to have you as part of the TEPSA family. And for those who are listening or watching right now, we hope that you come join us all in person June 7th through 9th at the Kalahari in Round Rock, Texas for our TEPSA Summer Conference. Sean Covey, Jimmy Casas, Carmen Agraditi, and so many more will be there. You will not want to miss this amazing conference and the perfect time to connect with people who know what you're going through and you can get ideas and build those relationships with. We'll be joining us again next week for an all-new TEPSA Member Spotlight. And before we let everybody leave, Maxine, if they want to connect with you on social media, are you anywhere on social media?
I am. I am on Facebook, and it's just Maxine Gonzales. You can look for me there. And on Twitter, you can also search my first name and last name, or at Henderson Midland ISD, and connect with me, reach out, send me a message. I'm happy to help support any of our leaders that need some additional thought partners.
I love it. We are better together. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you again next week.